opponent for this round is Vincent Keimer, the German phenom, who opens the game with knight to f3. And this game gets off to a really ridiculous start. Magnus plays knight f6. You might be wondering, what on earth is ridiculous about copying your opponent? Magnus spent 3 minutes on that move. And then when Vincent Keimer went here, just trying to play bishop g2 and castle, which is called the ready opening, Magnus copied him again and spent 12 minutes and 46 seconds on this move. I don't think he has ever done that. I don't know what millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions of variations that he was calculating. But man, I would love to know what goes on in the mind of somebody that good at chess for 12 minutes on the second move. I honestly think he had a little bit of analysis paralysis. Like, he copies Vincent because he's trying to think what openings Vincent is going to choose. And ultimately, Vincent goes here. Bishop g7, bishop g2, castles, castles. Oh, sorry. Vincent chose to play d4. It doesn't really matter. And Magnus employed the King's Indian defense. So an opening that has been played in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, a great opening, but an opening that is not seen as much in modern day because Black has much more solid options that the computer Stockfish gives the blessing to. However, Vincent committed a setup on the first two moves. Vincent played these two moves, which already give Black a lot of information because there are plenty of positions in the King's Indian defense. White never plays knight f3, and there's even more positions in the King's Indian defense. White doesn't play g3. So he gets a little bit of information, does Magnus, and now in the King's Indian, generally you play either e5 or c5. You have to play one of these two pawn breaks, right? He plays rook e8. It's quite clear he's trying to prepare this move, castles, and now he plays bishop to d7. And there is some lore about this very strange move. I actually prepared this move, bishop d7, some time ago. It's a very stupid little move. But it's got its practical ideas. Instead of moving the knight out and then trying to play in the center, you play bishop d7. It's very flexible, and in some positions you play queen c8 and you try to trade off White's light squared bishop. You make this little battery. So I have looked at this myself with Black. Now, fun fact, so did Magnus, but he couldn't remember with who. And David Howell, the commentator from England, super grandmaster and friend of Magnus Carlsen, you can decide which of those three is the most important. Would you rather be from England, 2700, or friends with Magnus Carlsen? He said he analyzed this with Magnus in a hot tub, and that is the lore. Incredible lore. Bishop to g5 is the move played by Vincent. He spends 20 minutes on this move, because he obviously did not remember all the details of bishop d7. And now White has a choice. The best move is apparently h6, and now you will be really confused because Vincent goes here. So now it's like, well, why didn't Vincent just play bishop f4 to begin with? And the answer is, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue, because if you actually look at the top move of the computer, it's bishop f4. So Vincent goes here, and then is like, actually, I'm going to go to f4. And he's basically saying that pawn could now be a target, which wasn't there in the past. Now the computer wants to use h6 and play g5. Now, if you don't know this, if you haven't actually analyzed this prior, it's a little difficult to push pawns in front of your king like this, because they don't go backwards. I don't know if that's a newsflash to you, but, you know, then White can target them with h4 in the future, but it is what Stockfish wants, because Stockfish is unafraid. Magnus, though, plays knight c6, and generally in King's Indian positions, if the knight is going to be attacked with the d-pawn and cannot move to the middle, it will go here. Now the knight pressures the pawn on c4, which White defends with b3. You will notice that when you play the move b3, you protect the pawn on c4, but you stop guarding the knight on c3. Continuity of the game as the game progresses. How does a piece move affect different pieces and different squares? That's all covered in How to Win a Chess Next Level, my intermediate book, available October 6, 2026. And now Magnus goes e5. Now, for the record, there is no real way to exploit this, because if you play a move like knight e4, that's very adorable, but this is a relative pin. It is a pin where, relatively speaking, I can't move my pinned piece, but I will if you give it to me for free, right? And then I will win back a knight and a bishop for the rook, and that will not be good. That's a very bad trade. So e5 is the move chosen in the game by Magnus. There is the King's Indian pawn break, d takes, bishop takes, and let me tell you something. If you ask me what type of a position you want to play for a win, this is it. I mean, it is a King's Indian where you haven't been blown off the board. White is going to try to play e4, dominate the center. You're going to try to create some counterplay with black. Vincent goes knight here. The bishop moves back. He takes a lot of the center. Rooks are going to go in back of these pieces. White is going to have a very pleasant position, but black's position is very good. And before you know it, yeah, Magnus is using what he has. He's going to try to break apart the position. A5, A4 is fascinating pawn play. Chapter 2 of How to Win at Chess Next Level. I sent Magnus an early copy, all right, about pawn play and piece play. That is why he is so sharp with his outside pawn play. This move impacts the center. Because if you play A4 and white takes, white shatters their structure forever. If they take with a knight, they stop guarding the middle of the board. And so A5 is almost always a useful move. Vincent plays H3, stopping anything from going to G4. A4 is on the board, and Magnus has finally equalized the game. He takes, he trades the rooks, and he plays H5, and he is hitting at the white position. I told you it's a little bit dangerous to push pawns where you've castled. The position is 0-0-0. The boys are down to, the second half of the game. But one thing that is precarious is Magnus's time. Yesterday, when he defeated Ali Reza Firouzja in a fantastic game of chess, he was up on time the entire game. Every round of this tournament that he has lost, he has been in a ridiculous time trouble. He has managed his time worse than I've ever seen him manage in covering games on this channel. He is consistently down 20 or 30 minutes on the clock, and I don't know why. Maybe analysis paralysis. I don't know. Vincent keeping everything very solid. Magnus now, though, taking over. Knight in the middle of the board. Very imbalanced game. Gets the king over to G8 to protect everything, and also actually to play knight H7 to get out of the way of some of the position. The queen goes to D8. Very flexible. Vincent now also trying to maneuver. Both guys can't really do much here with their pawns. It's very difficult to generate pawn play. Any pawn move for black weakens the position. Any pawn move for white weakens the position. And when you can't touch your pawns, it's very hard to play chess. You have to move around them, right? Like a little labyrinth. G5 is a nice idea to push the knight away. Now one pawn trade happens and the game begins to open up a little bit. But we are heading in a direction where there's going to be a lot of trades. The knight is traded, and this is Magnus's moment. Minus 0.5. He can play queen H4. Activate the queen to the maximum capacity, all right? But then obviously, white is going to come over here and start to attack the pawns on this side of the board. So it's a very tough decision. 10 minutes on the clock. And Magnus in this tournament, when his time gets about 10 minutes, 5 minutes and less, has not made the most accurate, the most critical decisions. He has made mistakes. We've seen him play like a human being. So he goes C6. Not the best move, relieving a little bit of tension in the middle of the board. And right here is the critical moment. Vincent plays rook F1. His rook is much better poised here on the first rank to defend everything. And Magnus has a moment here. His moment is that he can seal the position shut with the move C5. C5, you roll the dice, you don't have a lot of control of the game, but this is a very interesting move because black in the long run has a pawn majority. He has a 2-on-1. He can go B5 and C4, and that could turn into something. You could get a passed pawn there. One thing that you don't have maybe is control of the E6 square. So there are some lines white can trade this bishop, do something like this, and in a lot of positions, maybe try to bring the knight right back exactly to where it was. But of course, Magnus would go here. And I mean, this looks like a position Magnus has spent his career beating people. So he has this one moment here to close the position, but he doesn't play it. And instead, he allows Vincent to keep things a little bit open like this. And this is just enough space open on the board to give Vincent an opportunity to liquidate. Magnus goes G5, Vincent goes F4, and now we're heading somewhere where the pawns are going to get off the board, the bishops, the knights, maybe the queens, and even though black has some type of an interesting position, you just don't have enough pieces, you don't have enough targets. That's really the problem, is like, you don't have enough stuff that you can attack because your stuff is also in the line of sight for white. It's minus 0.3, but this was the big moment that if Magnus was feeling good in the tournament, maybe he would have trusted himself to play C5. But again, that's the way it goes in tournaments like this, and any top-level tournament. That was the one chance, and ultimately, in the classical, the game peters out into a drawn endgame. Even here, I would put money on Magnus, like maybe to put some pressure, but you have nothing here. Too many symmetrical pieces, too weak of a king. You're gonna trade everything, and the players agree to a draw because there's only 2 pawns remaining on the board. Nobody is going to make a queen. My nose is itchy, as always, because that's the way it's been going during the seasonal allergies. However, what does this mean? This means we play Armageddon.